Let's get started with the special meeting here of the Westfield Redevelopment Commission. First item on the agenda is declaration of a quorum. John, you want to take roll, please?
Sure. Linda Noth,
Here.
Bob Beaudry. Bob Beaudry. Jill Doyle,
Here.
Doug Holtz,
Here.
Joe Plankus,
Here.
Bob Beaudry,
He said he might call in. Christopher, are we live?
We are live, he's not on call.
Okay.
Jimmy Cox.
Jimmy was not going to make the meeting.
Okay. We have a quorum.
Okay, so we have a quorum. Thank you for that. We have one item that we need to take care of first. We need to modify the agenda. Tree Runners Agreement is not ready for us. I'm going to make a motion that we move it to the next available meeting, just to have a formal, and we'll ask Manny to make a couple comments here after we move this on to another meeting. So my motion is to move the Tree Runners Agreement to the next available meeting to be considered by the Redevelopment Commission.
Second.
Okay, I have a second by Doug Holtz. Comments, questions? Get an explanation here in a minute. In fact, maybe it's an appropriate time, Manny, to,
Oh, sure, be happy
Make
to.
the comments
Yeah,
if you would.
Yeah, and I'm subbing in for Cam today, so forgive
Thank
me
you.
if I'm a little bit behind. But he and I did speak about this last week. I think the issue was when this agreement was first presented, or when this opportunity was first presented, it was presented in such a way that lent itself to, okay, great, this is another kind of great use for the park, potential revenue source that is ancillary to and would benefit the park when the brother or sister is playing on one field, they can go and do this activity. So it all worked out well. But as we went into the process and the comments and the back and forth, and we got into the structure of the agreement that Tree Runners presented, it quacked and smelled more like a disposal of real property than it did anything else. And as the comments, as Kim and I discussed it last week, as kind of the finalization of the comments and Tree Runners went back and forth, it became more apparent. It's one of those issues where, take a huge order for light bulbs. Well, are you paying for the light bulbs, or are you paying for the service to install the light bulbs? And in that kind of scenario, at least our advice has been, take the more stringent approach. From a transparency standpoint, for the taxpayer, for the municipality, it makes sense to make it harder and to add a couple layers. You can still do it within the timeline that you want. So our recommendation is to do an RFP process and kind of do a little bit of a reset. And then I think Ms. Noss sent comments maybe earlier today, and which made it even more clear to me that's what we should do, because there are certain revenue things and other agreements that I wasn't privy to and aware of, that now we may have some discomfort with, and we're at least evaluating. Again, all the more appropriate to, when it's teetering between the two, user agreement or a more stringent kind of disposal of real property under the law, my recommendation is always take the more stringent path. You'll probably end up in the same place, but you'll have a heck of a lot more security, because if you do it and somebody makes a determination that it wasn't done under that part of the statute, then the law says it is void. 36-110, void. So A, safer play, B, better, more transparent, C, gives a little bit more time to consider the proposal anyway, and D, you'll probably end up in the same place. Worst case scenario is you get another bidder, which ain't that bad. So that's kind of the 30,000-foot view of why we recommended shifting course a little bit as this thing evolved.
okay, great. Thank you for the explanation, Manny.
Sure, and if anybody else wants to call me or talk to me after, I'd be happy to.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, motion on the floor. Let's take a vote on it. All in favor of the motion to postpone it to the next available meeting, please signify by saying aye. John, would you take roll call, please?
Joe Plankus.
Here. Yes,
Doug.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we did that already.
Yeah.
Doug Holtz,
Yes.
Jill Doyle,
Yes.
Linda Noss.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, do you want to try Bob Beaudry, see if he's on?
Bob, are you there?
Not yet. Okay, very good. Motion passes 4-0. next, so let's go on back to our regular agenda then. We have the minutes for approval for November 15th meeting that we had originally. So are there any questions or comments or changes to those minutes? Okay, the only thing that I have, John, is under approval of the minutes. It says to approve the September 2021 with an amendment. It doesn't say 2021 minutes for approval. So we just need to insert that one word to make sure the thought's correct. I move that we approve those minutes with that modification then. I have a second.
I'll second.
Second, Jill Doyle. Any questions, comments, additional changes? Okay, if not, let's take a vote. Again, we'll take roll call, John. All in favor?
Linda Nass,
Aye.
Jill Doyle,
Aye.
Doug Holtz,
Aye.
Joe Plankus.
Aye. Bob
Passes.
Audrey? Bob's not here yet. Okay. Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Now we have the minutes up for approval for our meeting on November 22nd. Are there any changes or corrections from the commission members in regard to those minutes?
I was going to say that at the last meeting, Blake was going to supply us with the presentation that they gave from Bullpen with their list of
Capital.
capital improvements, and so we were going to attach that to the minutes. So I would make a motion to approve the minutes for the meeting of November 22nd, 2021, with the addition of that attachment.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Doug Holtz. We have a motion on the floor with a second for approval of the minutes with the modification of the attachment Linda's pointed out. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. John, please take roll. Aye.
Joe Plankus.
Aye.
Doug Holtz,
Aye.
Jill Doyle,
Aye.
Linda Nass.
Aye.
Bob Beaudry's still not on yet. Motion passes 4-0. Go on to the next item. Legacy Sports Group, LLC Professional Services Agreement. I think all of the commission members have had copies of this for a number of days to review. We've had some questions come up. I think they were addressed with the modifications to come up with the final agreement. Do we have any questions or comments in regards to the agreement?
I just sent a copy to everyone of my comments, and I don't think they're going to take long to answer, but I would like to know, for example, Article 1, where it talks about, it's nothing in this agreement shall include these in LSG's scope, and we're talking about legal services, insurance services, operations, maintenance, labor, security, and other staffing services for day-to-day management and operation functions of the facilities, and number 4, marketing services and accounting bookkeeping services. Do we, as the RDC, understand that if LSG isn't doing these, do we have a clear understanding of who is? Because I think William had done some of these things as the director. So do these all fall to the director, or I'd just like to understand as we're going into a new arrangement,
That's a good
who's
question,
doing these
Linda.
things?
Mike,
So they don't
the
fall in
way
a
I
hole
understood
somewhere.
it is, yeah, the way I understood it, Todd would try and then be responsible for making sure those things are handled. But William, if you want to
Yeah, I
clarify
can speak to
that,
it quickly. William Knox, Grand Park Director. All of those additional functions that are not included in the scope of my agreement would fall to the new director, which would be Mr. Trinian. So anything in that area would fall underneath his purview.
Okay. Article 2, fees. My question is, in the LSG proposal of September, it talked about $15,000. Here you're talking about, unless otherwise specified, the RDC agrees to pay LSG for pre-approved travel and pre-approved out-of-pocket expenses incurred. You're probably very familiar with that paragraph. Can you explain what this one means versus the $15,000 that was in the proposal that we
So
originally?
that relates to any travel that is required by LSG at the request of the RDC. So anything that you would advise us to attend on your behalf, that would be charged back as a billable expense.
Okay. And section 2.2, taxes. It says the amounts payable to LSG under this agreement are exclusive of sales, service, or ad valorem or other such tax enforced from time to time. RDC agrees to pay such taxes. As the same becomes due and as the context may require, exclusive, however, of personal property income taxes, franchise taxes, corporate excise, payroll taxes, workers' comp, or unemployment taxes and income taxes. Okay, so my question is, what are you seeing, understanding in that paragraph that the RDC will be paying in taxes? Is that confusing to ask it that way?
So obviously, I will cover any tax obligations related to my company, but all other obligations for the operations of the park would fall on the RDC to
And
cover.
in your experience, what kind of taxes has that been?
So you being a tax exempt organization.
Right.
you
That's
know,
my next-
Obviously, but for the staff that remains on the city, you would pay all workman's comp and all
Oh,
other
clearly.
taxes related to
Okay.
those staff.
You want to clearly separate
Yeah.
that? Okay. Let's see. Article 7, under the agreement, it says, unless either party elects to terminate this agreement on not less than 120 days prior to the termination date. I think originally when we were talking about the proposal and meeting, I thought 120 days, 6 months is a really long time if something's going on. I felt comfortable with 90. I'd maybe,
120 is only 44 months.
4 months, excuse me. Did I say 6? I didn't mean to say that. I meant to say 4. And I'd be comfortable with 90. I've seen how long it takes us sometimes to get contracts together, but this is under the termination. And I don't know if there would come something where we need to, you or us would need to terminate and get moving along because we need to be conducting business out there every day. I
So
I
are
just
you
wanted to
saying
bring that up.
4 months is too long, Linda?
I thought 4 months was a little long. I
That
thought
takes a-
90.
Working with William over the last year and the things that are going on, 4 months is not very much time. When you look at the amount of meetings we have and those
Yeah.
kinds of things, to be able to act on changes that we would be come in front of us at that point, I think
Well, this
4
is about
months-
termination.
Yeah, and
I'm
I
just-
believe that relates to the renewal, if the extended terms, if we needed to, so the 24-month initial term, any renewal term would need to be opted in or opted out with that 120-day notice, from what I understand.
Well, this says unless either party elects to terminate this agreement on not less than 120 days prior to the termination date. And I'm like, sometimes in terminating, I've been in business for a long time. Sometimes 120 days seems like a long time when you need to terminate and move forward. I'm just bringing it up. It's up for vote, but
I understand your point, Linda. I guess my pushback on that would be, he's got a very comprehensive contract here with almost 4 pages of services. If you go through the detail that he's presented or that we've agreed to for this document, that's an awful lot of stuff to get lined up with another party and going through all the negotiations. I mean, look what we've done with tree runners and amount of time it's taken just to
Right.
work on that one, what I would consider a fairly simple contract compared to the scope of what William's covering.
well, let me ask Manny, if there's a situation that arises and you want a quicker termination and both parties are agreeable,
That's-
regardless of this
Regardless of this,
clause,
if both parties
can
are,
you change it?
Yes,
Can you
ma'am.
shorten the time?
yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Okay,
That's where I
Both
wanted to
parties are
go.
agreeable. Yeah, if both parties are agreeable, you can
good
do it
question.
tomorrow, we just require a simple
right.
amendment.
So if something was really going wrong.
Absolutely, or really, if there's something egregious, not that I would accuse
Well,
William of
that's
such
the other
things.
thing I was getting at
Then yes,
originally. If there's
yes,
something
there's-
egregious,
you don't
Yeah.
have to wait 4 months and stay in that partnership.
okay. All right, thank you for that legally. And then further in that paragraph, I think there's a typo. 5th sentence from the bottom, it says, and fails to cure the breach within 10, in parentheses, it says 30 days. Which is it, 10 or 30 days?
Well, I'll tell you,
Something
legally,
needs-
it's gonna be, if you keep it like this, it's gonna be read as 10. So if you want it to be 30, the motion to approve should be with that
Yeah.
change.
Okay, so I think we need to clarify on that one. Do we want 10 or do we want 30?
days.
Okay, at the top of insurance, I just wanted to ask, is this in fact the updated verbiage and coverage desired? Because we talked about this a bit too, and so I assume because the lawyers have sent this out, we're all happy with this insurance?
Yes, this is actually more than.
More than, okay.
What previous contracts have specified, so
Okay.
I'm extra comfortable with it.
Okay, that's what I
William may
wanted,
not be, but that's not my concern.
that's what I wanted to hear. Well, I don't want it to be a stopper on either side, but I wanted to clarify that. And then, let's see, on the page,
And just to specify, Ms. Nas, that's also in addition to the umbrella, right? So we have
Yes.
a little bit of extra protection there.
yes.
Sorry
Now,
to interrupt.
all right, thanks. If you go to section 10.2, but it's on the second page of that, Legacy Sports Group, we forgot to put Fishers, Indiana, 46037 in the address. Could we add that, please? Okay, going to, let's see. The next page, this is section 10.9, compliance with laws. My question is on this line, where it has the small I. I think there's some words that are duplicated. It says that is not, comma, and it is not owned or controlled. Isn't that, there's something wrong there? We have too many words, or that doesn't make sense. It's the small I in the center of section 10.9.
Yeah, I recognize this. Unfortunately, this is correct. It's saying two things. It's saying, one,
Is that? Okay.
I am not a fictitious entity, and also, I'm not owned or controlled by another person.
And it is not.
Exactly.
Okay, well, I
Yeah.
wanted to clarify. I
No,
appreciate-
good, that's a great question.
Thank you. Next paragraph, 10.10, counterparts. I was wondering, what counterparts are suggested here? What are we perhaps considering?
Sure, so this is pretty typical, especially now, in this day and age, when it used to be, everybody would sit at a big, long table about this size and sign everything at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So a counterpart is merely saying, okay, William, you sign it today, RDC will sign it on the 20th, or
Okay.
whatever. Those are deemed together, no matter when they're signed by either party or in front of whom, to be one original document.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify,
Yep,
okay?
another good question.
Next page, next is section 11. The center paragraph, my note is subcontracts shall not have any, I thought perhaps we should add this. Subcontracts shall not have any conflicts of interest with RDC or City of Westfield and its governmental entities or divisions.
I think that's law.
Well, that's why I'm asking, well, Manny's here.
Yeah, no, and I don't, so here's the problem, that's that's
I
either
don't
a
know how
term
to
of art, right? It
Yeah.
either has a very, very specific definition, like it does as between lawyers,
Right?
very specific, or it's so in the other direction that it's hard to define. So it's either defined by law already, meaning that another party can't contract and compete with, while having the same agreement with William, for example, can't compete with William's company and do the same thing. That's already, we have those built-in protections already. And we can seek to enforce those through other means. We don't necessarily need to have that here, and it would not be enforceable as against those other companies. That's the other problem that I have when I'm looking at it with my two hats, right? My business litigator hat on. I'm saying, well, even if we had that, and we really liked that language, and everybody was for it, I don't know whether you are or not, I couldn't enforce it separately, as a separate obligation on a subcontractor. What we can do is when William presents a subcontract, we can add terms that might be a little bit more stringent, that will require reporting or other requirements to exist. So we either, it's a long way of saying, we have the ability to enforce it if they mess with the city in the one instance. And in the other instance, that's not a specific enough term. I would recommend adding others, if you were to subcontract with somebody, adding others that would bind them a little bit more than what this would suggest.
And so we actually have another
Still have
swipe at
another
that.
option.
Yeah, that's correct. So we'll have another swipe. So
Okay.
yeah, and for example, there's already a state law overlay with somebody doing business with the city has to present certain information and make certain
Right.
filings anyway. So that, I see what you're saying, but I think it's either addressed or we have the opportunity to have another bite at it
Address
later.
it later. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, number 13, discrimination prohibition. The verbiage in the last two sentences, I know tonight there's going to be a proposed policy manual come before the city council where we're changing this verbiage. Do we want to change it in this document? Because this is like right out of our policy manual.
Yeah, and that policy manual, the one before tonight was
Yes,
taken from the state,
yes,
and that one is still in effect.
Yes.
So my recommendation would be to follow that one, because this discrimination paragraph is a state statutory requirement for contracts with municipalities. So even though we are changing ours,
Yeah.
and you can certainly do that, you can vote to reflect that change, but I'm saying, as it exists now, it's perfectly appropriate. It meets state law at least.
Okay.
But if you want to go ahead and add our language that the council might or might not adopt tonight, that's absolutely fine too. That you
Yeah,
have
we
that
don't know if they're going
either
to
way.
adopt it tonight, but,
That's the issue, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we
But-
can always go back to revisit that and add it at a later time.
You absolutely can, yep.
okay. Next is Article 16 Personnel. My first question again is, I think I asked this on another contract. Can we require background checks for employees and subcontractors? I think the city does them sometimes. Will LSG do them?
We will, yes.
Does it need to be written in here?
I think is that a city requirement, John? Doesn't the city require that anyway?
It is in most of our contracts, yes. Any engagement, that's one of the first things we ask is their background checks have taken place. Does that answer your question?
Well, then you think that that would cover anything for LSG? I think his company here has written that he's a little separate from us in this paragraph, so. But I know he's going to be interacting with us all the time, and so it concerns me. And then few sentences down where it says, as such, in the event that William Knox leaves, the employer otherwise ceases association, because just above there it said he's a key person. So my question is, does LSG have key person insurance or policies to protect the integrity of the company, which would protect our contract?
We have all the required policies. In addition to that, we do have errors and omissions policy for the company.
Okay, so do we feel that covers us there?
I mean, that's not the same as a key person
I
policy.
know.
I think you know that.
That's- Yeah,
Obviously, it covers us to a certain extent, but you also have that built-in termination, right? If William leaves, the RDC can meet and go, well, let's talk to the other person, or let's maybe reconsider.
okay. I think it's good we're discussing this in your answer,
Agreed.
so we know where our next step is.
100%,
Should
right.
something happen, and I don't expect it to, William. I really don't, but, okay, Exhibit A, letter J, my question is this a current program we own? You're talking about manage the online registration request site for users at owner's expense, parentheses, if developed by RDC. Do we have this? We currently own this, right?
Yes, that is venue ops.
Okay, and the next one is develop the database management. Do we currently have this software and databases? What are the names of those? What are the costs of those? You probably know, I don't have to read the whole thing.
Yeah,
do I?
those are part of our normal operating,
That you're already using?
yes, systems
Okay.
that we already use that we'll continue to use. DocuSign, venue ops,
Yeah.
Event Connect, and so on and so forth.
Okay,
Sorry, may I interrupt 1 second?
Sure.
I just saw an email from Bob. Chris, he said he's having trouble joining in.
oh,
I just want to give him an opportunity if he's still on the phone.
and then letter L, I wanted to know, let's see, coordinate with the RDC the negotiation and implementation of use agreements, provided that the RDC will approve the final form and terms of the use agreements. I don't want to assume, but this would be using RDC attorneys?
Yes, so that the use agreement was developed and continues to be edited by RDC attorneys,
Okay,
legal.
So just for a little bit more background, when we
Yeah.
came in, we helped normalize and optimize those.
Mm-hmm.
So the really good news is 99% of them are kind of good to go as is. They
Yeah.
don't need to see us at all.
mm-hmm,
When it gets a little tricky is when we're involved.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we would need to be involved, and you guys get the final say. So
Yeah.
that would remain the case.
okay. Letter S, question is this currently being done? So this is designing athlete savings cards or similar programs recognized at local businesses to enhance awareness of the facilities. We're currently doing that?
We are currently doing that in partnership with Hamilton County and looking to expand it in 2022.
Okay, great, just wanted to know. And provide monthly updates related to LSG scope of work. Will this be to the RDC at commission meetings? Is that how we plan to receive those?
I plan to provide written reports monthly, and when necessary, I can definitely come and present in person during meetings.
Okay, do we need to designate whether we want them written or in person, or?
I think let's see how the written reports go, and then if there's a
Okay.
need to, obviously William's gonna be
Sometimes there's a
helpful,
good-
cooperative, and he can attend as necessary.
Okay, number 3, sales vendor management agreements. It talks about, although LSG will provide such sales coordination services, the RDC shall ultimately control, approve, and contract directly with any independent sales agencies and third-party entities for those revenue-based agreements that such agencies and third parties develop for the facilities. I wasn't sure, I was writing the question, for example, like who, what kind of company, what did you intend?
So any third-party vendor relationship that's established for the betterment of the campus would be contracted through the commission, not through Legacy. So for instance, our
Some we have now.
third-party
Like?
vendor for janitorial services, our third-party vendors for contract, for our flooring deployment and some of those others. The actual contracting entity will be that vendor and the RDC.
Okay. Letter F is that upon RDC's pre-approval, develop a filing system at RDC's expense, so there is a library of materials for future use for the facilities. I think that'd be great to have. Are you talking about digital or physical or both?
Current day, that's done through DocuSign, so that's our digital library, so all executed agreements will go through DocuSign.
That'd be great to see.
Would that
Okay.
include things like blueprints and infrastructure blueprints or
John has a
diagrams?
lot of that information from the
Procedures.
historical perspective, but anything new would definitely go into those existing files. And those are all digital.
I appreciate your time. I just have a few more here. Letter N, provide annual sales return on investment reporting to sponsors. Analytics provided at additional cost on a per-sponsor basis for the facilities with any required third-party analytic costs being pre-approved and paid for by the RDC. So, are we currently doing anything like
So
that?
we do provide post-annual reports to all the sponsors. If we did want to go down the path of securing software that allowed us to do that a little more efficiently, that would be brought to Matt from the operational standpoint to approve or deny that expense.
Okay, I'm just trying to recognize in
Yeah,
some of these
no, that's
questions,
fine.
where
Yeah.
are we gonna see some added expense that
Yeah.
we haven't seen before? So
Yeah,
I
and-
appreciate your time to answer these.
Mm-hmm.
Under number 4, meeting annual marketing budgetary goals set by the Grand Park Director. Is that really set by the Grand Park Director, or is that really set by the RDC, those budgetary goals?
So once
How
you
has it been
approve,
working?
once you approve the budget, then it's under the oversight of the administrative
Talking about
side.
his oversight. Okay, very good. Letter H, collaborate with City of Westfield Communications Department on all media relationships. Could we, as the RDC, also be copied in to know what's going on and who, when you're doing these things? You've been doing these things?
Yes, we've coordinated, any marketing efforts, we've always coordinated with the city, just
Mm-hmm.
because of the interconnectivity between the two organizations. But I don't see any issue I don't see any reason why Matt could not bring those to these meetings
Be
as well.
part of what he's reporting to us, kind of. Okay, under number 5, LSG compensation, let's see. Well, I just understand that's 3%. Under letter B, though, and I asked you for this, a list of current sponsors in terms of their agreements, because I wanted to see where we were, so that you're gonna be hopefully adding more. Will be great. And then, the LST contract, the superlative group contracts, what's gonna be the status on those?
So LST contract expires as of December 31st. The Superlative Group's contract expires as of December 31st as well, but they have a, excuse me, a 6-month tail, whereas if there's any sponsors that are executed, they have on their list within that 6 months, they still would receive revenue from those. So both agreements will be done as of the end of the year.
Okay, is there anything formal we have to do that? Shouldn't be, because
Yep.
it's written in those
Yep.
contracts, correct? Okay, and then, if any sponsorship shall provide the RDC with in-kind consideration, would this be things that are secured by LSG? What if we come into something that's secured by the chamber or the city or somebody else.
That would have no bearing on that language in the
This just
contract.
means what's secured
Correct.
by you.
We have to produce those items, yes.
Okay, all right, because that's where it was saying that we're gonna, if you get in kind, then we pay a percentage of those, but yeah, it should be things that you secure. Okay, good deal. And then I think under little number 3, it was talking about RDC will hold and remit sponsorship commissions to LSG within 30 days of receipt. Those again would be like new sponsorships.
Correct.
Very good. Little letter C, almost to the end here, guys, says, LSG shall directly receive all revenues received from such third-party contractors and vendors for exclusive rights to provide services, products, or materials within the facilities. Isn't that like sponsorship? Do we currently have any of these? Can you
So those,
explain to us exactly what that is?
similar but different. Those are not in place current day, but those would be looking to secure third-party vendors that are exclusive providers for services for the campus, such as
Such
the
as,
flooring deployment, the pipe and drape, things of that nature, golf carts, all of those services that are needed on campus, we would work to secure those vendor relationships and
and
maintain
then you
them.
would receive revenues from that, not the RDC?
It's very similar but different from the sponsorship agreement.
Okay, and then who holds the,
So we would, as part of our compensation for that, we would manage those vendor relationships on an ongoing basis, and that's where the revenue would come to the legacy.
I guess I don't know what we have currently in place.
Yeah,
How
this is
much
not,
how much are we talking about? When do these third-party contractors, when does anyone get revenue from them? And
so current day, there is nothing in place. And as I said, we would work to
Okay.
secure these relationships and then manage them going forward.
Okay,
So that would be new revenue.
That's new, yes.
that would be new
Yeah.
revenues going to LSG. Okay, the only other thing I had was there were things that were in the proposal that we talked about back at, when it was presented in September that I didn't see here, and I just wanted to make sure that we're not omitting something. The hub wasn't mentioned in this contract, the research hub?
So as I indicated then, all of the work that I would do for the hub is not based on this contractual relationship. I'm doing that on my own free time because that was something that I started for the city and I wanted to kind of
Yeah,
see
we
it through.
kind of talked about
Yeah.
that, and
So-
you had it in the proposal, but it wasn't in here, and I
Correct.
thought,
So none of the scope that I'll perform for the research hub is included in any of that and is not computed in any of the time or the calculations for fees.
okay,
But let me
good, so
tell
we
you,
have
that
the
is-
same
That
understanding.
is a huge windfall for the city. I'll talk to you about it after.
Yeah.
What's gonna be involved in developing
Yes.
and ultimately monetizing that asset?
Yeah. Well, we had talked about it in our meeting, but I didn't see it in the contract. It was in the proposal. I just want to make sure we're not omitting something that should have been in your contract. Another thing was, let's see, in your proposal, you talked about in-house owned events co-produced by Legacy Sports and the RDC.
Better served to
That's
be
not
under
in
a separate
contract,
agreement.
right?
Yes. So we've already talked through some of those with Matt and the operational team. It's better served. We've done joint venture agreements with other entities that produced events on site. Those would come to you through that format.
Okay, so what you had written in the proposal is actually going to be in effect.
Yes.
Okay, there was something in there too about establishing Grand Sports District, which I was not a big in favor of.
Yeah, I think the appetite for that
It's-
has waned a little bit.
Okay.
So we're going to do the strategic plan. That's
Okay.
part of the scope of what we're going to provide, and through that strategic plan, that will give us the direction.
Well, that
moving
kind of
forward.
came up when we were talking about renaming, and that went away, and so I was kind of hoping this went away too, because I don't want to
And that can't be
see,
secret either way. That is a super complicated, very splashy thing to get off the ground.
very pricey to get off the
Oh,
ground, because
potentially,
we
yeah.
already paid to get Grant Park off the ground. I don't want to have to launch something else at a big expense. Okay, so, financials, what is LSG going to talk to us about, and when and where?
Monthly report would cover that, right?
Yes, so the monthly
that-
report will cover that. A
Okay.
lot of the responsibility, so we will talk a lot at a high level related to bookings,
Mm-hmm.
and all of the activity will come in through the revenue side from the different things that we operate. Matt, as the director, will come to you with the full financial analysis for the park on, I think current day we do it quarterly. We would commit to continuing to do that.
Great.
He
Okay,
will commit to continue to do that.
all right. Well, then you're not concerned that anything has been omitted in this contract?
No.
I just
I
was
think
going through
everything
my
has been
checklist.
contemplated, yes. And it
from-
just was better served to keep this agreement clean, not to muddy it with some of those other opportunities.
And I understand we have other places to go on that. Okay.
Does that cover it, Linda?
Yes, thank you for your time. I do really appreciate it.
No problem.
I
Thank
thought it
you,
was our
Linda.
only opportunity.
Question?
Yeah, thank you for your thoroughness in looking through that.
Jill, you have anything you want to add?
I do not.
Doug?
No.
Nothing? I have nothing further to add.
So may I, Mr. President, interject to the extent we're going to make a motion, the two kind of main things we need to include from Ms. Nas's questioning is the motion should include the addition of the Fisher, the full address for LSG, and also change the word 10 in the termination and the opportunity to cure to 30.
Okay.
So somebody can just say, "so moved,"
Yeah.
instead of repeating all that.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jill Doyle. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. John, would you take roll, please? Joe Blankus. Aye.
Doug Holtz.
Aye.
Jill Doyle.
Aye.
Bob Beaudry. Linda Noss.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
And
we have
welcome with the
4-0.
agreement, William.
Motion is approved. Thank you, William, for your efforts, and Manny and the crew, Cam, I know a lot of work went into it, and
It's all Cam.
that's,
I just
great.
came to steal the glory tonight.
that's greatly appreciated on that.
Get to work, William.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the calendar for our schedule of meetings for 2022. Has everyone had a chance to review it?
There's a couple errors on it.
Couple error, okay, what do we got, Linda?
Well, in 2023, it says January 1/17/22. Could we change that to 23,
correct that.
please? And the last note, meeting activities is spelled wrong, just a spelling error there. And my question was, because it says meeting month RDA/RDC, do we differentiate when the RDA is meeting?
They have a
I-
separate agenda.
Yeah, I do that
Yeah.
at the time of the meeting, so if then they're,
But they're going to
It's-
use the same
they will
dates
use
if
the
they
exact
need to
same
meet.
Yeah.
calendar,
Correct.
so that if
They
they
always have-
have to be here, they would be here at the same time, or shortly after we are, or before we are. Most of the time, those activities are intertwined so tightly that we have to have them either before or after we
In
meet.
fact, we've even had a joint meeting previously.
That's correct.
With the
Yeah,
RDA in
and
the
this
past.
said, meeting activities may require start times to be removed to 5 PM. But remember, we discussed that if we were going to have public hearings, we would try to keep
Right.
them at the after
And I think
6
that was
o'clock hour.
signified in the minutes, and we will try to
Yeah,
follow that.
so we don't need that note here.
I don't-
You know, I'll go ahead and
approve
add
this.
that back in there.
Okay.
Just,
Because we did
put
that
that
all
in
public
there.
hearings will take place after 6.
Yeah.
Great,
Okay,
good. I think we agreed to that
okay,
earlier.
so.
All right, that's all I had.
Sounds like we need a motion with a couple modifications added of the public hearings being held later on the agenda so that we have opportunities for our citizens to provide their input, and also to make the couple minor corrections here on the typos on the agenda itself, or on the schedule itself. So do I have a motion for approval? So moved will be good. So
So-
moved. Okay, Doug, so moved, second.
Second, Linda Nass.
Linda Haas, okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. John, if you would, take roll.
Joe Plankus,
Aye.
Doug Holtz,
Aye.
Jill Doyle,
Aye.
Bob Beaudry, Linda Noss.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 4-0. Got our schedule set for 2022. Is there any additional business, John or Manny, that we need to bring before the commission?
I'm not aware of any this evening.
Neither am I.
Okay, very good. Do I have a motion for adjournment? Okay, so move. Second?
Second, Linda Nass.
Linda Haas, okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Voice vote. Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.